I guess it's fair to say that there's not going to be any love lost between Karren Brady and West Ham United fans. With Brady having officially announced that she stepped away from her role at the club, I guess the only thing on fans' minds is more about how surprising it was that she left with immediate effect. Look, we'd been hearing rumours as far back as January, that Brady was going to leave, but there were firm denials that this was ever going to be the case. And from what I understand, senior sources were notified by Brady only this week that she had made her mind up to leave with immediate effect. And it was Brady herself who broke the news to Matt Lawton of the Times shortly before it was officially announced. Now, many are questioning why Brady made the decision at the time that she did, with lots of speculation flying around. Some are suggesting that there will be some explosive news breaking out early next week, which could change the landscape of West Ham's ownership in the coming weeks. And Brady is now moving in order to safeguard her own brand. But um, look, the speculation is rife. We all know this. It's rife on social media. It's rife on the terraces amongst West Ham away fans. And I'm sure Brady would have known about this speculation well before now. Anyway, whether there is any element of truth to these rumours is not for me to say, but apparently we will all be somewhat wiser this time next week. So let's see what happens. All I'll say on the matter is don't be surprised if no news comes out. And equally, don't be surprised if news does break out. Anyway, we're here now, some 2 or 3 months on from when speculation was first mooted, and Karren Brady really has left West Ham. When asked who might replace Brady, the senior source at West Ham said, the fans have got their wish. Maybe they would like to tell us as to who they think should replace her. The source also continued, we start a search today to find the best replacement we can, though a lot depends on the division we're in. Clearly, as far as David Sullivan is concerned, he isn't happy that he has lost a person who has worked alongside him for the past 40 years or so, and who, in all honesty, has been his frontline defence for much of the criticism that he has quite rightly been receiving for the way he, Brady, and the late departed David Gold, in how they ran West Ham United and how they ran Birmingham City before that. Brady will be remembered for a lot of things during her time at West Ham, but it would surprise me if any of those lasting memories will have endeared her to any West Ham United fan. Now, there are many things in which she did, on a business sense, which seemed to make a lot of sense. And this was her only, if that was her only aim, then she clearly succeeded. But football clubs are very different beasts to other businesses. We as fans are tied in. We're invested emotionally as well as financially. So everything that Brady did on a business sense seemed kind of cold, distant, less caring, and less bothered as to what fans really wanted and what fans really needed. And I do often ask myself, would she have done half the things she did if she was, I don't know, the same role at her beloved Arsenal? Or was the disconnect to West Ham fans her way of being able to make cold business decisions without any feeling and without any remorse? Look, I didn't like Brady much, but I always suggested that she was a good businesswoman. And in a sense, she was. By some of the business decisions she made, left a very bitter taste in the mouths of just about every West Ham fan. The trouble with business is, well, you must always remember who your customers are. And the irony in that sentence is the word customer. Brady referred to us as customers, yet she seemed to forget what made loyal customers at West Ham United tick. She was so hell-bent on targeting new audiences that she completely forgot, or should I say, completely ignored, the loyal customers that followed West Ham through thick and thin. She seemed to have no understanding, or seemed to not want to have any understanding of traditional West Ham fan values, which is why many felt that the club they loved from childhood was simply no longer recognisable. To her, Karren Brady was selling a commodity. West Ham fans, or any football fan for that matter, do not fall in love with a product. They fall in love with a football club, something that they're passionate about. And Brady seemed to do most damage to that particular brand against those loyal fans. It's funny, I studied marketing when I was a lot younger. And the one thing that you learn is that you build your loyalty by providing a good product and a product that is very recognizable. So our product was simple, an East London club from a working class background that already had a massive following. In her pursuit to attract a different breed of customer, Brady made the brand so unpalatable that most traditional diehard West Ham fans simply decided to walk away from it because, as many put it, we weren't West Ham anymore. Now, much was made of adding the name London and removing the castle from the badge when we moved to the London Stadium. You see, I kind of didn't have much of an issue with the castle being removed, and let me explain why. It was there for many years up to 1964. It disappeared in 1983 for I think something like 4 seasons, was reintroduced in 1987, and it went again in 2016 when we moved to the London Stadium. But the castle was always a symbol representing the Boleyn, more than having anything to do with the London Stadium. So I got why it was removed. But to add London to the badge, well, as I said, that was Brady trying to attract a new customer. She knew full well that by adding London to the badge, it would attract the tourists, and this was Brady's first mistake when it came to the fan base. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that we would have filled a 60,000 seater stadium, London Stadium, week in, week out, but we would certainly would have had at least 45,000, if not more, on a regular basis. But this was one of the first moves that started to put the hardcore fans off. The dilution of the commodity was in full swing, and the traditional fans, rightly, didn't like it. But that's what Brady wanted. She wanted new money, she wanted new business, and didn't much care for the old guard. Which leads me on to the Fan Advisory Board, or that's the most recent name for a group of fans who regularly meet with Brady to supposedly talk about things that concern fans and to try and come to some consistent consensus on a better way of working together. But alas, this felt more like a box ticking exercise for Brady and for the club rather than a real platform for any real dialogue to be had between fan and club. Brady chaired these meetings, but very little action was ever taken from them. The most recent of meetings yet again talked about what seemed to be now ongoing, long standing items: stadium stewardship, away fans in the home end, designated fan standing areas or the lack of. It just felt like the same things discussed over and over again with promises of looking into things, and then nothing really ever happened. And then, of course, the next meeting comes up and the same issues are discussed again. More smoke and mirrors from Brady, I guess. Now, had Karren Brady acknowledged the strong fan base and got them on her side from day one, her job would have been so much easier because loyal fans would have been behind Karren Brady if she truly engaged with them and made them feel that they really had a say in how this club is run. But Brady's plan was to always erode the traditional fan base and to get in the high paying tourist customer who would turn up for a game between West Ham and Chelsea, but wouldn't be seen dead on a dark, wet, cold, dreary Wednesday night against the likes of Burnley. And to a point, Brady succeeded because year after year, we heard of lifelong fans simply having enough and not renewing their season tickets. So, like I said, if Brady's target was to get new business and not give a damn about the old fans, then she succeeded. Now, transfers and other businesses, any business concerned with finances, this was Brady. Well, not so much transfers, but club finances was basically Brady's main thing to look after. Get sponsorship in, keep an eye on that we're managing our money well, and of course, on occasion, be involved in some of the bigger transfers that the club had done. But when it comes to transfers, Brady's approach was effectively to alienate other football clubs from doing business with us. With her, that's what we're offering, take it or leave it attitude. But to oversee or to allow West Ham to go from a decent profit to a massive loss in just a few years is simply unforgivable, and that is on Brady's lap. And maybe Karren Brady finally realised that her promise of a world class team playing in a world class stadium was never ever going to materialise. Now, when Karren Brady sold Declan Rice to Arsenal for a then British transfer fee, that money should have been used to further strengthen the base that we had at West Ham. At that point, we were 2 years into our European campaign. We had won a trophy, looking ahead to a third season. It should have been the dawn of another era for West Ham. But that was messed up massively. But still, was this transfer to be applauded? It made many fans angry because we were in a position where we had no choice but to sell Declan Rice because his ambitions were far greater than West Ham could ever match. But should we have been in a better position to offer more? Look, it's a crowded market up in the greedy six, and even if we were run better, to actually try and match the spending power of those clubs would have been difficult anyway. But we could have given ourselves a better chance, couldn't we? And every time an asset was sold at West Ham, that money, well, we've rarely made a profit on many players, but when we sold Declan Rice, that money should have been used wisely. And it felt as if, with the sale of Declan Rice, we took 3 steps back to, after achieving a massive step forward in winning a European trophy. Look, we know Rice wanted to leave. He was persuaded to stay another season, and he fulfilled his obligation. So in a way, we at least did get the best price for him. But Brady patting herself on the back for having sold a homegrown talent, then seeing that money go from a club profit to a massive debt, is nothing to be proud of. Now, I've often talked about our dismal policy, our transfer policy, and mainly blaming it on Sullivan for most of our failures, and that's not untrue. But it seems that Brady was as bad on transfers as Sullivan was. And before I get on to the biggest issue that made West Ham fans really dislike Brady even more, let's not forget her stance on getting Graham Potter to the club, who was going to transform this club. The biggest managerial failure since, I don't know, Avram Grant maybe. And Potter is the main reason why we're currently in the position that we're in the league. So, Karren Brady alienating the fan base with her marketing and her branding to attract a new kind of West Ham customer, selling one of our main assets and then being skint for it a few years later, bringing her mate Graham Potter to the club, which has seen us close to being relegated. Could there be anything worse than all those so far? Oh, yeah, of course. In addition to the world-class team she promised, we are, of course, playing in a world-class stadium, aren't we? I guess the only problem is that it's a world-class athletic stadium and not a football one. Look, we all know the lies and mistruths, but to double down and suggest that things couldn't be changed because we don't own the stadium was like rubbing salt into a very open wound. Our seating was not and will never be as close to the pitch as it was at Upton Park. And whilst I understand the business reasons for moving to the London Stadium, even that has now been crushed because of the debt that we find ourselves in. How much more debt would we have been in if we having to pay our own, a proper way in being at the London Stadium? I dare to think. Look, the one thing I do often say about the stadium is that it can sometimes generate a good atmosphere. But for me, it's not as intimidating to the opposition teams as the bowling was. That's definite. But Brady leaves us with a legacy that we won't be able to get out of for generations to come. Excuse me. Look, the cast iron contract that Brady negotiated is great for West Ham on a financial level, but it's also a noose around our own necks because as much as the Mayor of London or anyone else for that matter would love to get us to renegotiate the contract, we're unlikely to ever be in a position to just get up and leave because of the vast fortune it will cost for us to build our own ground. So we're stuck there. And that's no thanks to Karren Brady, who went with the Golden Sullivan vision and made it work for them. The stadium is Karren Brady's legacy, a legacy that will be never forgotten for all the wrong reasons. Farewell, Baroness, but as many fans will say, good riddance. And briefly, what of Daniel Kretinsky? Well, I've said so many times before, Kretinsky is at West Ham because it's an investment. Do not be fooled into thinking that if or when he ups his stake to match that of David Sullivan's, then all of a sudden things are going to improve. I genuinely don't think they will. He hasn't shown any serious investment in the club that he loves and owns, Sparta Prague. So I will find it difficult to believe that he's going to invest heavily in West Ham. He hasn't done till now. Sure, the rumours of him wanting to bring in his own senior people may well be true. He could, for example, bring in Thomas Rosicky as the director of football at West Ham, and he could do that role both for Sparta Prague and for West Ham at the same time. It's not unheard of. Edu does that for 3 clubs that Evangelos Marinakis owns. I'm sure that he may also want to bring in his own exec director to oversee sponsorship deals, as well as his own finance director to replace the individual that's left that role as well. And I'm aware why both Nathan Thomas and Andy Mollett have left West Ham. And one is coincidental with Brady leaving, but the other isn't. So Kretinsky may indeed push to get his own people in, but don't be fooled into thinking that he's going to be our saviour. He's a businessman, first and foremost, and he'll do what's good for his business before he does what's good for West Ham fans. But hey, I'll be happy to be proved wrong there. More on that in the future. If you've enjoyed the show, if you've enjoyed listening to me rant on, please do hit the like button. Please do hit the bell notification that's appearing that appears below, and also hit the hype button too. And there's a QR code that's just appeared in the top corner there. If you click on that, that takes you straight to the subscription page. It's free to become a subscriber of the channel. It really does help the channel, elevates it up in YouTube's algorithms and all that sort of stuff. So if you've enjoyed it, hit this subscription button. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I will see you all again very, very soon.